At this time, we'll wait for Val.
We're good.
Is it going? All right. Welcome everybody to the workshop of February 13th, 2024. We're meeting here in the commission, not the chambers, in the workshop room. And we have everyone in attendance. I'll let Val go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Dia?
Here. And at this time, we're going to discuss the WastePro. It just says commercial rates, but commercial, all of the rates we're going to talk about here. So, and just to the commission, a reminder that this is a workshop, so if you have questions, just stop whoever's presenting in the moment and ask your questions right then and there. We can have an open discussion and debate. With that, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Forte.
All right, thanks, Mayor. And thanks for allowing us to have this work session in the conference room. And the reason I wanted to do that is because the spreadsheet is up on the screen, and I think it'll be easier for everyone to see it. And if we have to manipulate the numbers or point something out, it's certainly a lot easier to do it here than it is on the screens that are in the conference, in the chambers. So where we left off after the last work session, some of the comments that were made were things like, is there a way that we can reduce the residential rate and a little bit more on the commercial rate? So I went back to Bill and Tim, and I recommended that we drop the WastePro's proposed rate of $250 down to $175, and then Tim came back and said, well, they can do that if we increase the commercial rate an additional 35 cents cubic yard. And so going back and forth with several iterations of the spreadsheet, that's what we worked on putting together. So I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I could just, and one of the other requests that was made was that the CPI cap gets dropped from 5% to 4%, which we did agree to.
Right. So that was another concession that they provided to us. So we ran the numbers out, and one of the things that I keep reiterating is that this is one of these unknowns that we're dealing with. So I always kind of want to make myself feel comfortable if I can anticipate what our rates will be in the next 14 years as compared to somebody who's recently adopted a contract. So Ormond Beach, for example, is one. And when we looked at the commercial rate, it was pretty darn close, within $1, I think, 14 years from now. Their rate, I think, was about $1, actually more than what our rate would have been. Ours would have been like 18, and theirs was like 19 or something. I don't really remember. We can show you that at any rate. So we carried it out, the 175 for five years, and then that drops off. The city's rate that we put in was 250, and although we run that out the entire length of the 14 years, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means that's just an example. The same thing when we look at the proposed rates. When we talk about now Bill and Tim were able to break out the fuel and the disposal components, and all of those are based on assumptions of what those percentage rate increases would be. This is kind of worst case scenario. This is if everything were at the max. So it's more than likely that those numbers would actually be less over time than they would to be this, and certainly not any higher. So just look at this as an example of worst case scenario as you push out to the 14 years, anticipating that those numbers will probably be a little bit less. So I'm going to let Michelle kind of go over the numbers with you to kind of explain what they are. Maybe Michelle, it might be easy to start with the residential side.
Down here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is our current cost, $19.31 that we're paying WastePro, and what we had talked about was increasing each year by $2.50 as for the revenue, and this is the.
That's our side.
Okay.
That's our side.
Okay.
All right, yeah, we can have Bill. Yeah, Bill. We'll let Bill explain it. Why don't you do this, Bill? Jump up to the rose-colored And let's talk about what the WastePro charges to the city would be, not so much what the city's rates. to the
Let me
customer.
walk over there so I can see it.
Sure. Yeah, so you got your eyes fixed. Unless, Bill, you mean, you need to stand up there, do you want the mouse, or you better off standing up there?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
The 1931, as Michelle says, that's what we're currently paying WastePro, which includes all these components, which is disposal and fuel. The fuel adjustment is based on the government on-road diesel, and that's changed every year. What we did is we took those out 4%, the same as we did the CPI. And when we take this number, 1351, that's what we applied this CPI to. Then we added in the $1.75. Additionally, we had the CPI going to the new amount, including the $1.75, and we backed out of that. The city manager said, no, I'm not going to apply the CPI to a new rate. So we applied the CPI to this rate and added in here, which is, and then we added $1.53. So that's $15.80 includes this number plus the CPI. And that follows all the way across to the 5th year, where the $1.75 falls off. And there is no more step up, what we call step up at that point in time. So we take this across all the way. Michelle, you might want to go all the way across. As Joe said, in 14 years out, it could be at 43, 44, worst case scenario.
Well, that's what our charge to the customer is. That's not,
That's ours.
that's your charge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this
All right, okay.
43, 44.
Yep.
Now,
Yeah, chime in.
the
Chime in whenever you need to.
No, I'd let Bill finish, but I just wanted to
Okay.
add something you and I talked about, just so everybody's aware.
Okay.
So, like Mr. Forte said, this is the worst case scenario. Most likely, and the disposal stays the same. The first time in 15 years, I believe it's 15 years, Joe,
More than
that
20.
the Volusia County increased their rates. That happened the 1st of October. That's the first time in 15 years. So we assume that those rates, disposal rates, will stay the same. What we did also include is the city is now paying for recycling processing $77.50 a ton. We picked those tonnages and broke it out per the household, and we included that in this number right here, 553. 433 includes the 7750. Worst case scenario, based on my conversations with the chairman of WastePro, that 7750 per ton is most likely going to go to 150 a ton. And that's where this number increased here to include that 150. It could be 100 a ton, it could be 90 a ton, it could be 110, but it won't be, we won't let it be over 150.
Let me chime in on that. Again, Bill said that was worst case scenario. Just to understand, I told Joe this the other day. So we have the ability to process recycling. Gel, which is another company here in Volusia County, has the ability to process recycling. We will be competitive with whatever their street rate is. So it's kind of a check and balance on me. I just can't come in and say, hey, it's going to be 150 because, we'll have a competitive processing cost with the company that's already here. So it's just a way that you guys can make sure that the costs are in line. And again, that's a worst case scenario.
And we keep watching on that market. So this 553 could remain at 433. It could. But worst case scenario, it could go to 553. Do you have anything else, Jim?
I think that's it on the residential side. Does anybody have any questions on the residential side of things?
So you're saying that $1.20 increase is going to cover almost twice the charge of a recycling?
From here to here?
That's on the,
From here to here, sir?
That number's, I'm sorry, that number's garbage disposal and recycling. So the $1.20 is the increment of recycling. That's what that's representing. And yes,
If it doubles?
Yes,
Almost doubles?
because it's only a portion of that number.
Because not all of
Yeah,
it's
the,
recyclable.
we have the residential component has 3 components. It has solid waste, it has yard waste, and it has recycling. And that's all in this number here currently.
So, just to get my head straight on this, is the disposal fee, that is not fixed in a contract, is that correct? Or are we saying we would lock into the 553?
No, the disposal fee is determined by the county.
Okay, so that's just whatever fee it
pass-through.
is that year, that's what we're charged through the contract currently.
Like John said, it's a pass-through.
Yeah,
All right.
and like they
So-
mentioned earlier, Mayor, the county hasn't increased their disposal fees in
20 years.
And that's typically because, you know, and Antoine might be able to chime in, these landfills, they have these cells, and they plan these cells out for what, 50 or 100 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So they've got this budget, this plan on how you fill a landfill cell up until it goes to closure. So it's not likely that they do rate increases as much as what you would see any other type of business.
Right.
So I don't suspect that there's going to be much, if any, other landfill charges coming down in the future.
Mayor, the only thing in this disposal cost that I think could fluctuate would be the recycling processing fee.
Right.
Right, that's why I go up. So, because I just want to make sure what we're looking at is, because you said at the beginning, let me look back to, you said, you made a comment, this is projected for 14 years. Doesn't mean we have to do it for 14 years. What do you mean by that?
No, what I'm talking about is you go down to the line where we are going to be charging a stabilization rate to the customer of $2.50.
Right,
That $2.50 we've run out for 14 years.
right, and that's determinable every year by us.
That's your decision. Obviously, you don't want to reduce that in the years that we're being charged the $175 from the hauler, because you want to build that additional balance in there. I also want to make everybody understand that when we talk about we'll call it the markup doesn't just cover, the only bill that we have is not WastePro. There are other expenses that come out of that fund to the tune of about $52,000 a month that cover other expenses. So I don't want you to think, well, WastePro charges us $100 and we get back $100 from the customer, we break even. There are a lot of other expenses other than the hauler that come out of the solid waste fund, okay?
Are we talking about the internal expenses for
Well, we're talking about
utility billing
anything from
department?
professional services, insurance, direct allocation, admin costs, the paving, the mobility fee, things like that.
And
Go ahead.
so, this is if you do the smoothing effect. What's the rate if we do nothing in the next 3 years?
If we charge the customer
No,
nothing,
what's, our rates are locked in right now at the
the 1931.
1931, right? And it could go for 3 more years at that rate?
Well, you still have CPI and you have fuel costs that get added on every year.
Okay,
Now,
but
in
when's
the
that
past-
contract in, though?
2017.
2027.
I'm sorry, it started in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already in.
In the past, we've absorbed all of those increases. In fact, in the 9 years that I'm back, we've only done one rate increase. Actually, it was 2 increases in one year to the customer. When we initially started the contract in 2017, when we went to WastePro, we actually lowered the rate from what we were being charged from Waste Management. So we reduced the rate, and then we've held it, intentionally held it, knowingly held it, because we had enough of a fund balance, and we only did one rate increase since then. So now we're getting to the point where we really can't do that anymore, because we're finding ourselves in a diminishing reserve fund, and we've got to turn that around.
Yeah, but I don't want it to sound doom and gloom, and I know what you're saying underneath the surface, but purposefully, we haven't raised the rates on our residents because we didn't need to, because as you
Correct.
said, it was healthy, that was intentional. And now, you know, the reason we're here is because of good budgeting and because of a good contract that was made in 2017. So I just don't want any of the commissioners to think that it's doom and gloom by any means. We have the leg up, and smart budgeting over the years has allowed us to not raise those rates but still maintain a good fund balance and to be able to do some projects out of that and to be able to have that fund.
Your fund balance is still healthy. You know,
I know it is, yeah.
It's still healthy.
So what is, remind me, Mr. Redmond, what is the current CPI now on the contract? Is it capped at 4 or 5?
It's not capped.
It's not capped at all, so it's
No.
just anything,
It
so,
could- Whatever the CPI is in the
Okay.
sewer water trash index under the trash subtitle,
oh,
that's
okay,
what
there's a
the
specific,
and it could be 6%, it could be 3%.
right,
Fuel is also not capped.
okay,
The fuel can run, well, in one city, last year, we had a 55% increase in the fuel component alone.
wow,
And I don't know if you all remember the chart that I gave the city manager. The most recent bids are coming in excess of $32, $33. And that's when I made the statement at the last workshop. You know, this is a presentation to, I'd rather personally, I'd rather deal with the known as to deal with the unknown, because the cost of trucks have just skyrocketed.
And that $32 is my gauge. I want to see because we're doing this early, 3 years early, and I'm hoping it's going to spread out to 2 or 3 years later. So in 5 to 6 years from now, are we going to be at that $32 rate? And we're going to be pretty darn close to it.
I noticed that you kept the customer number at the same. There's no adjustments to that? Does that, if you do per customer, it doesn't change really the total cost?
You talking about the number of customers in the city?
Yeah, it says number of residential customers, it goes to 4,095, and that stays the same every year thereafter, it looks like.
Well, you're pretty well landlocked. I mean, I think you have an 8th Street or somewhere over there.
Well, you have 8th Street development, you have the Mirage development, you have 3rd Street development, but it doesn't really matter, because
It's
the more
per-
customers you have, the
It's a
more
per customer
markup you
charge is
have.
what we're looking at.
Yeah,
Well, the more it costs you.
it's gonna cost us more, but we're also gonna have a markup,
Right.
so it should be proportional.
Yeah, I think if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year, the 6th year, you'll be somewhere around 33, 30.
Yeah, so in 6
$33.
years from now, we'll be at what other cities are signing contracts at for residential rates now. So that's why we give a little bit in the beginning, they give up a little bit in the early part of the contract, and hopefully it kind of balances out at that point.
Another thing, if I might, your sister cities, recent contract, we were able to negotiate, the city manager was able to negotiate a cap on the CPI as well as the cap on the component, just strictly the collection component. Ormond Beach has no cap on the CPI, right?
Correct.
And they have their CPIs on the whole amount, including fuel and disposal and collection. Whether there's an increase or decrease in fuel or disposal, it doesn't matter, they get a CPI on it.
Michelle, can you go all the way to the right?
Right?
Thank you.
So do you want to talk about the commercial now?
Well, one thing I probably didn't communicate well at the last meeting was, if we're trying to smooth it, I see that the percentage increase, 5.98, 5 points, it's decreasing over time, but you take the hit in the first year. If we're gonna smooth it, shouldn't we smooth it? If you go back the other way now. You see the increase, first year increase is 24.5%, then 10, then 9.3, then it goes all the way down to like 5.4. If the intent is to smooth it, and I don't know how you do it, some way you can actuarially determine and make that a 7% rate increase across the whole board every year.
That's not a good way to look at it.
Well, to your point, and I'm looking at I don't know what that formula is, but like where the 24% is.
Right.
If you're going from 1931 to 2166, that's more like a 10 or 12% increase, or 14. I don't know exactly the math, but going up $2.30 is a 12 or 13% increase, not a 24% increase. I'm not sure what the math is doing on.
Is it because the numbers were smaller, the percentages are bigger? Is that why the numbers are so big?
Yeah, that should be right.
Commissioner, what number was
Yeah,
it?
maybe that's 1405, not 20.
Where the box is, see the box that says 20, so that's percentage increase annually.
Well, it could be, you have a number of, that's based on total revenue, and you have an increase in customer base the first year when you don't have an increase in customer base thereafter. So that's
I
gonna,
see.
that's gonna show up in
I see.
the total
Okay.
revenue, but it won't be, so that may account for some of it.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, because we're saying we added
Michelle,
a
does
couple
that
hundred.
include commercial?
If
Or is
we,
that just residential?
if we scroll down a little bit, it shows how many customers we increased.
Well, it's right up there, actually, go up,
Go up.
right there. It's
30.
It's right here, 3987 to 4095. So you have a
100
little over
bucks.
100 more customers.
Yeah.
And that may account for some of
If
it.
you go,
Because this is based on total revenue, it's
Right, right.
this minus this divided by this.
Right.
this and that.
and the increase from 1931 to 2160,
Well, I
I
would
believe,
change it
is
so
actually a
that-
12.16% increase.
Because we changed the number
Oh,
of.
so what do you want
To
to?
21 what?
It's 12.16% increase.
What's the number, 21 what?
All right,
the-
I made it the same for comparison purposes.
19 something to 21?
What did I do?
Yeah, if it goes from 1931 to, if you scroll down a little bit, 1931 going to 2166 as the revised.
2166?
Yeah, the 1931 to 2166 is a 12.16% increase.
Right, that's a,
8.21.
that's a total revenue.
Right, that's what Scott's saying, that's total, because that's adding 100 customers.
That must be including the commercial, because the commercial does have a bump in the first year to,
Right.
Is it realistic to add 100 residential customers next year?
We have the
Sixth Street?
Yeah, you have Sixth Street.
You got Mirage, you have Sixth Street, you got Third
Anastasia
Street,
Court.
and Anastasia Court. So are we gonna get all 100 next year? Maybe.
Okay.
But
It'll be staggered. It'll be,
Yeah,
Right,
monthly.
it'll be on a monthly basis.
In the next 3 years, you can probably figure, you also have 10th Street,
10th Street, yeah,
so you're gonna have 500 new residents.
yeah.
What are those residential, are those townhouses residential pickup, or is there one local dumpster and it's commercial pickup?
No,
Are
That's-
they single
no,
family?
no.
Are they single family?
No,
That one's apartment.
No, they're
no,
not
they're
apartments,
townhomes, they're townhomes, so they will be
they have units.
separately.
The apartments on 3rd
On
Street
10th
will be
Street.
commercial.
10th
10th
Street is commercial.
Right,
It's on the agenda tonight.
right.
So that'll be individuals, 6th Street will be individuals, Garage will be individuals, 3rd Street will be commercial.
And Anastasia Court will
Anastasia will
be
be individual.
individual.
So, quite a few.
Okay, all right.
10th Street's gonna be commercial.
10th Street will be commercial.
It's gonna be a big apartment building.
Right,
Yeah,
apartment,
okay,
yeah,
that's
that's
what I'm
right.
talking about.
That's what I was trying. Yeah,
I didn't think
that's okay.
townhomes.
But, yeah,
Townhomes
townhomes,
will be individual.
individual,
Apartments won't.
but apartments will not be,
Right.
yes.
I think the recent bids that I gave you on the chart, they, if I remember my math correct, Tim, you might be able to correct me this, they had a 40.5% increase right out of the box.
In Ormond,
Yeah, no, in Palmco.
in Palm Coast.
higher in other places.
So let's talk a little bit about the commercial side of things. And again, I'll just remind you that you've got options. You got options to move forward with what's being proposed, move forward with changes to what's being proposed, or don't take anything that's being proposed.
May I
Or
ask
you,
may I ask a question?
yeah, or we can increase our rates and not do an increase to WastePro's rates, and then go back for bid in 3 years. So there's a number of options.
And this is more for Scott probably, and Tim might not like this question, but if you extended this contract, as we did in Daytona Beach for 12 years or whatever it was, I believe that the commission or the city has the right to cancel the contract during that term for cause number one, or for not for cause with and I think we put in there 365-day notification by either party. Is that, do I remember that in the addendum we did,
For
Scott?
them, I think 365 for them.
Are we talking about
Or
the
90 days for us or something like
You
that.
talking about the new proposed addendum? I have to look and see, I can't remember.
I'm sorry?
You talking about the new proposed addendum being considered right now?
Yeah,
I have to look at it and see.
Yeah, but the 365, because if they cancel it themselves, we have to put it out to bid contract again.
Right.
And that's gonna take, you said, what, a year?
and if the city canceled it, I would recommend that you give them the same language so that both the city and the contractor can prepare for an exit.
Yeah, and well, there's conditions on us exiting, which I would hope there would be conditions. I always hate to see
Yeah,
that.
because we're requiring you to
termination
replace that fleet with new fleet
Right.
within 3 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then that's why we put in, you know, I don't want to say dispute resolution, but we put in a mitigation clause
Yeah,
in there to
yeah.
try to work things out.
I didn't mean to
Which
get
is
you
not
off
the
a train of
intent.
thought on commercial, Joe. I just had that thought.
Yeah, well, let's knock commercial out of the way real quick if you want to hit
Yeah,
that,
let's go
Joe.
ahead and talk about the commercial. Bill, you want to jump onto your spreadsheet again?
That's the green section.
The current rate that we're paying WastePro is, where's it up here? We're paying them $5.95 a cubic yard. We increased the rate to $2.27 plus 38 cents to make that $8.60 per cubic yard. Your competitors or your local cities are already at 11 plus dollars per cubic yard. We did the same thing. We took the current rate plus the 38 cents plus the 227 to 860. We added the CPI onto the old rate, and there's where we came back to 1103, 1171, 1243, all the way out. And we did a projection on Norman Beach's commercial rates. If you want to pop that up for me on this one. Where Norman Beach currently is, they're at 1122. Their CPI is on the whole component, fuel and disposal. So they would go out to like $19.43, if you want to pop back to that. We would go,
We'll be at 18.
in 14 years, we would reach where Norman Beach is going to be.
So the other thing we did with these rates, if you remember, when we showed you at the last work session, we had the 2, 4, 6, and 8 yard containers, and they had different markup percentages. So Michelle and I, we averaged those out, and it came to 33%. So when we compared the two based on 1 month's revenues, the difference was within $1,000. So what we did on our side is we took the proposed rate from the hauler and we put a markup of 33% onto it to smooth that out. And these are the rates that we're going to propose no matter what happens tonight, that we still move forward with on the city side, both the residential and the commercial. We still are going to talk about doing that no matter what happens tonight. So that's that smoothing rate. I think it kind of makes it a little bit more clear. It's a little bit easier to understand.
You're talking 33% increase the first year on the commercial?
33, it's the markup, not an increase.
Well, that's about 30-something percent, isn't it? From 8-something to 11-something?
If you remember last work session, we showed you what the markup was. Is it on this sheet? It went anywhere from 28% to,
Oh, I hit that column. Do you want to see that?
yeah, if you could. Okay, 7%, 20%, 22%, 11.5%.
Got it.
So we averaged those out and we figured and again, these are on different components and different size. So 33% of a flat markup is where we were close to breaking even. So that's what we did to come up with the markup on the rates. So when you take whatever the hauler is going to charge, oh, there it is, that's the markup.
The green was at the beginning of the contract in 17-18.
Right. So over the years, we haven't been doing the rate increases. So what we started out at 44% markups have dropped down to what you see now are 7% and
Well, Joe, in some of those categories, you weren't even covering your administrative costs.
on the commercial toter,
Yeah.
we're barely making $1.
Yeah, well, that doesn't cover collection and billing
No.
and everything else.
No.
You know, we always figured that it costs a minimum of $2.35 just to send the bill out.
So Joe, we've seen the
Yes.
residential expense to the city, now the commercial expense to the city.
Let me get back to that sheet.
And now we're talking about
Yeah.
commercial expense to the customer.
This, right.
I mean, it seems like keeping it simple is the easiest way to do. Whatever we figure out, whatever being charged, if you apply a simple markup to that on the commercial side, are you proposing the same simple equation on the residential side? Like
No.
33% markup on the residential side, or
No,
what?
no. It's what we showed you before. We're doing the 250.
It's more static, so the percentage would go down over time.
Yeah, that's why you're going down.
But remember though that the commission could set that every year too,
Right.
our rate. But here's what I think we should get to is I want to know what the bottom line is. The bottom line is if we go the other way, if we stay with the contract as is, and this is no offense to WastePro, but if WastePro, we had it the opposite way, you would write out this contract, and rightfully so. Capitalism is good in my eyes. But what I'm saying is we're in the position now to smooth this out. But with this smoothing effect, we get there in, what you say, 5 years, 6 years, what we project is gonna be what the rate is in 3 years. If we had to rebid this out, we did nothing here today, moving forward. Is that about correct?
About right.
5,
No,
6
if
years.
we rebid it today,
No, if you
it
rebid
takes
it in
5
3
years to
years.
get there.
But if we have to rebid it in
Right.
3 years, if we do nothing. So the point to that is how much, if we stick to what we're going to still charge anyways, the $250 to our customers from the city side, how much reserves will we actually build up to then be a cushion when in 3 years from now, it's gonna go up to $33 is what we're kind of expecting here, to use that to
Mayor,
then
I
ourselves.
think it'd actually be more than that, because it's already at 32 and change.
So it'd be higher than 30, okay. Do we have an estimate of how, basically what I'm trying to get at, an easy way to say this, a concise way, is how much money, Mr. Redmond, are you proposing to save the city by renegotiating now in your best thought or guesstimate? That's I think the only thing that matters. Are we gonna save money and how much? Or is it all just a wash anyways?
I think that what we could do is take the current recent bids of 32 and change, minus what your first year would be with the negotiated rate, and that would tell you, give you a percentage number one, and also you could extrapolate that out residentially. And if you're, I'll give you an example, I think.
This is the expense. And can you raise?
See, our first year is 21,
So what's
Yeah.
2166.
This is over.
So that's your new rate.
These are
And if we bid it out today at 32.50, that's $10 and something, $10.04 a house, times 4,000 homes. You've got $40,000 a month, that's $550,000 a year in savings.
How'd
That's
you come up with
that's
that?
year one. I'm sorry?
How'd you come up with that?
Well,
Well,
it's-
you take-
40,000 a month?
You got 4,095 homes.
Oh, you're saying 41,000 a month?
Yeah, so you got
Half-
500, almost
yeah.
$500,000
Right,
a year.
okay.
Yeah, we're looking at about $61,000 a month.
So 61, that's all, that's now you're
Over-
talking 720 or
Now,
725.
I'm just talking residential.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're about 61,000. So in your line of thinking there, if we increased our rates and didn't allow WastePro to increase their rates, you'd be looking at about 500, 600, 700,000 a year for the next 3 years. And then we get the new rates from WastePro in year 3. And then you can choose to, by now your reserves will be pretty healthy again, and you can use that to smooth it out over the next 3 years and try to bring it into balance. It's a timing thing. Do you want to smooth it out now, or do you want to smooth it out later?
And, you know, we call it a swag.
Yeah.
Junkie, you know what that is. I would say that your rate, the minimal rate in 3 years would be somewhere between $36 and $38. And that's not really taking into account some of the new costs that we're seeing coming online with especially equipment. Where the front load trucks are running right at $400,000 a year per unit now. The rear loaders are running between $360 and $380, $390. And we're expecting this year, possibly the first of next year, another $25,000 to $30,000 increase in just that piece of equipment. Tim?
So the CNGs are running about 450.
What is CNG?
That's the fuel.
Compressed natural gas.
Yeah, compressed natural gas. I mean, the cheapest truck I'm seeing now is about 400,000. They're more in the 450 range. I've seen some as high as 500,000, depending on who's making it and whatnot. The other thing to consider, if you do this now, it's going to be in 26 or 27. The government's coming out with new additional emission controls for the trucks, which is going to add another 30 grand a truck or something.
Last time it was 25,000, it's going to be a little more this time.
Yeah, there's
Federal government.
something coming, and quite honestly, I just assume buy the trucks before then, because I went, no. So when the DPF systems went into place back in 2011, 2012, or 2008 or 9, somewhere in that period of time, we ordered 40 of them for a contract we're starting in Jacksonville, and every one of those trucks had to be replaced within a year. It was new technology. Trucks didn't run, you know, and the rain moisture turned out to be the problem with those. The moisture was getting into the system and causing failures. And we're like, oh, Florida, moisture, where would that come from? So, it just, again, there's each year, I mean, we saw trucks go up this year in some cases, $30,000, $40,000 a truck.
If they change the law, do you have to retrofit them, or once you're?
No, there's no retro. If you get them, you're.
That's it.
Yeah.
You get what you get, huh?
You get them, you're good, you're in.
You're not gonna get electric ones?
I think those go for about $859.
They do make them, huh?
They break down.
Wow.
What is that?
The electric.
Electric vehicles.
So you can't carry a full load of capacity because of the weight of the battery packages. The trucks themselves are, I think, $850,000, $900,000, and the charge only gets them through about 5 hours a day.
Wow.
Well,
Put a
the
generator
first
on the back.
one we did
Yeah.
was down in Titusville.
Solar panels.
The first electric truck we did down in Titusville, if you remember, was a cherry picker. And the battery pack on the truck
Oh, yeah.
was almost the size of the cab.
Wow.
It was a hybrid
Well,
truck.
let's get back on target here. So, how many trucks do we have running in Holly Hill, by the way? I know
We
you
got-
switch them out.
You got, daily, you have 2 rear loaders, 32-yard rear loaders and 1 25-yard rear loader. You have a cherry picker running every day, sometimes 2, and then you have a recycle truck. So you've got 6 trucks running.
And a front loader and a roll-off.
And a front loader and a roll-off, so you got 8 trucks running here.
Okay. So, you know, in my estimation, look, at the end of the day, I just want to do what's best for our residents, our taxpayers, our ratepayers, and so this is very good information. It's a lot of information, and what I have to see is what is the actual estimated savings that we will have versus if we build our own and take a chance in 3 years to rebid this out, hoping that the economy is better, hoping that your business doesn't keep skyrocketing, no, the costs keep skyrocketing, which they certainly could, and we could be in a bad place here. But I do know over the last several years that it's skyrocketed along with the rest of the economy. And I believe personally that we're going to see a slowing of that, of those costs skyrocketing. That's my belief. And so that's why it's hard for me to get on board with making, worst case projections, which as we're planning, we should make worst case projections. But what I'm saying to that is if we could build up those reserves and smooth it ourselves, we take a chance of actually saving money in the long run, if this is the worst case scenario that we're kind of already committing to. So that's just how I feel about it. I don't know how the commission feels, but that's where I'm at on it.
A scenario is that you'd have about $60,000 a month. If you adopt our rates, you would have $60,000 a month on the commercial and $20,000 a month on the residential.
So
80,000.
You're talking 2.4 million over 3 years?
So
Oh, no, it's 3 million.
roughly.
Yeah, 3 million almost, yeah.
Almost 3 million.
So what I am taking away from this is the rates are going up one way or the other, right? They're either going up now to try and smooth it, or guaranteed they're going up in 3 years. So I think, I'm not comfortable with pulling that lever tonight,
Yeah.
but I am comfortable with pulling the lever that we gotta increase the rates, because either way we go, we gotta start either building our reserves to smooth it ourselves, or entering into a new contract sooner than later. So I think the prudent thing to do is come to consensus on, are we going with the new rates? I think that's a no-brainer. And then give us a little more time to digest this, because you guys know I'm the numbers person, and I'm an overload right
I
now.
love Excel, and I haven't been able to.
Well, that's what you said, right? One way or another, it's a rate increase regardless, right?
Well, for our users,
I'm
it's-
recommending that we do a rate increase no matter what.
Right. That's what he's saying.
And that's not, and you're right, there's consensus, I think, there. I don't think anyone's objecting to that. $2.50 to our residents, and I don't think that adjusts much more than that, does it? You have it in front of you.
Yeah,
But the point is what will it do to the reserves? Where is that money going? So,
And what about commercial?
and how do we smooth it?
Commercial will be about $60,000 a month.
No, what's the increase on, if it's $2.50 on a residence, is it
It's
straight
based on
across?
the markup, the 33% markup of what we're charging now.
I think that makes sense, instead of having 17, 14, 12, whatever, just make it 33.
Now, it's not a full 33% because there is a markup already. So if there's a 7% markup and we're going to 33,
It's 26.
so that's the difference. But then we'll maintain that 33% markup, hopefully forever. That when we do get a rate increase, whatever that rate increase is, we continue a 33% markup, unless you want to turn around and
33% markup or 33% increase on top of the rates?
A markup.
Or are we saying the same thing?
You're saying the same thing.
So if you're a commercial and you're paying
100, you're paying 130.
133, so
No.
that's what
It
he's
just-
saying, you're not.
No, it just means that that's the markup of what we make. So if you set, the first year will be an increase of some percentage, I don't have it, but a bigger percentage.
less than 33.
But then it will be a smaller percentage each year. It's just gonna maintain that 30% profit, I hate to say profit.
Right,
but
that's your margin,
profit of us.
your margin.
Your
is-
margin, yeah.
Gross margin.
So if it goes up 5%, it'll go up 5% for the customer, roughly.
You're talking about your margins, but you understand that with the current contract, your rates are going to increase.
Right.
Right.
You're going to
Yeah.
increase the fuel component and the CPI.
Yes.
On the collection component is going to increase next
October 1st.
October 1st, but we take the calculations April? I think
April, no, April, they let us know that they're gonna do the CPI, yes.
So Joe, I guess I'm trying to simplify, make it simpler. So I understand what you're saying, take the cost of the commercial, add 33, that's what we charge the customer, right? And there's other internal costs, but that's our markup. why can't we use that same equation on residential? Take our cost and mark up 33% and say, that's it. And then every time there's a rate increase by the provider, we didn't increase their rates.
That would be your
They
first
raised-
year increase to the customer. That's your cost. Your
That's-
cost increased by 33%.
Because instead of marking up the customer percentage, you're gonna mark them up a flat $2.50.
Right, but that doesn't make any sense.
But wait, John, I think to your equation here is, every year when this commission takes a look at that
Right.
rate, we can look at what that fund balance needs to be. So I don't think it's gonna be static at 250, and I don't think that's
Sure.
what you're really proposing.
Well, by
You're just
250,
suggesting, we gotta put in a number now, right?
Right.
So if we see we need more in that fund balance, well, I probably won't be out of question, but,
Show that to John, I'm sorry, what you charge the customer now,
Right.
if you did a 33% increase, that would be what the first year would be,
$33.
$33 and change.
I see what you're saying, keep it even.
Right.
But the commission's gonna have to do it every year anyways, and you can adjust from there.
But I guess I'm not getting it. If the cost to make pizzas is $1 a pizza, and you need to make, and you decide you're gonna make 33% on that pizza, your profit's 33. And then if you decide that the cost of a sandwich is $1, and you need to make 33%, the math is simpler. Instead of a rate stabilization of 250, 250, 250, I just don't know why we can't just say, take our cost and multiply by whatever that number is to get to the same bottom number.
You're oversimplifying it.
Is your $33 a
Because
year
the ingredients to make
or a
up
month?
the pizza is not the same as the ingredients to make up the sandwich.
When you said the $33, was that for the year? For the customer, or was that per month?
That would be per month.
An increase of $33 a month?
No.
No, it would increase to $33.
They're paying 2501, right?
2501.
Your cost, you charge the customer, your residential customer today, 2501,
Okay, and what's our cost?
1931.
So 1931 times 1.30 or 1.33.
2568.
Okay,
It's 2568.
okay, and we're charging them 1931.
Oh, I'm getting ready to say, man,
You're
We're
paying
charging-
1931.
I didn't see you doing anything.
That's why it's just
I thought you was
finance,
doing
right?
it right.
Charge
I
them
said, man, we
2501.
we really
Charge
got
them 25, and it would go up, so it would go up $8.
So, John, what you're trying to say is you calculate the cost for every service, and we just add to that cost, we say.
A fee, yeah.
There's a percentage for
Straight
internal
across the board.
costs.
Right, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to.
And
Instead
regardless of
of,
what the cost is,
Right?
somebody's gonna pay that
that?
markup. Everybody's gonna pay the same markup, is what you're saying.
yeah, everyone pays the same markup, then all we gotta do is concentrate on,
Yeah, but
we
one
gotta
of the
make,
things-
we gotta either make a nickel a month or $5 a month. And that's,
But let me simplify, maybe, hopefully, is what I'm trying to say is if you do just for our projection
Right.
needs right now, that 250 is going to be a declining percentage of our profit each year. And so for budgeting now, I think it's good to look at that, and then the commission every year can decide, you know what, we would like to make a 33% margin. But when we get to the end of that 33% margin, maybe a lot of money for the solid waste fund that, I don't want to say we can't spend, because I'm sure Antoine probably has some projects, but,
You're trying to do it like Serena's, or like a business. Where
I'm
you
trying to
get
do it like a
food
business,
costs,
like, what's my
right,
cost?
You got your food costs, you got your overhead, and then you got your
and
markup.
what's my
and-
nut? So what do I gotta charge to make
Trash
my
isn't
nut?
that simple.
Huh?
Trash is not that simple.
I'm trying to simplify it.
but we're not locking in though to the 250 now.
Well, we're only
It's
doing
just
250 for
like
5
next
years,
year.
and then it goes to $1.
Well, no, we're not locking into our rate whatsoever. So every year, we can adjust that. So that's just for projections, am I right? Which projection?
You're correct. We are not, if you
We
put
would
in
only
a,
lock into their rate, what they charge us.
if you put in a 33% markup on the commercial rate, that's done. If you do
Right.
250 the first year, the next year we come back to you, we say, well, we want to do another 250.
Right.
And every year you've got to vote on that 250 increase. Or you may
He's just
decide to make
struggling
it
with the fact that we're
$1.50.
doing-
But I'm
I think it's
struggling
more
with the fact that, how can commercial be so simple and residential be so complex? Because we're just taking the cost of the commercial times 1.33, boom, that's your number. And we're adding this and taking that, and I think I'm not digesting it.
Unless the 250 comes out to 33%, it's not apples for apples, you're
Think
apples and
about it.
oranges is what you're
The
doing.
250 is about 10%.
You're charging 2501 now. If you had
So
250,
it's
that's
10%.
10%.
So you're charging one 33% and one 10%?
Yeah, but that's because, though, we have been undercharging our commercial.
You want my bill?
Yeah, but if you look at the other
But-
cities, Mr. Redmond showed us too, we're undercharging.
10%.
But I guess,
If he wants a percentage.
okay, so I guess my problem is that we can't balance the books on the backs of the commercial. We're always focusing on residential, because
But that's what you told us last meeting, was to push the burden off the
Yeah, that's
residential
what we
onto
said.
the
right,
commercial.
but I didn't know it was gonna be
That's
that.
what you told
I
me.
didn't know it was gonna be that much of a
If
split.
it's
I mean,
10 and 12, it's one thing. If it's 10 and 33, now
All
you're
right,
talking three times
Look at
as
it this
much.
way,
No,
we haven't
this isn't
increased
right,
the
no.
commercial rates.
Right, this
We've
isn't
never
right.
increased
We're
them.
not charging the commercial enough, so everything is falling on the residents. That is
Correct.
what we determined last meeting.
Correct.
So we did say, let's make this even. Not that it has to be on the commercial side, and I don't want that either. It should be fair.
Right.
But, and to your point, the 33%, 1.33,
Right.
multiplier can stay the same. That doesn't mean that your bill's gonna go up 33% every single year. It's not.
No, I get that.
At all.
But I guess my concern is that the majority of the taxes are paid by the businesses in this community, ad valorem taxes. And Florida Power and Light charges a business more per kilowatt hour than a resident. And it's the same plug coming into your house. And so why do we have to balance everything on the back of the businesses when it's the same cost?
They don't vote.
Well, that's not a good answer, though.
One thought, John, is that
Who said that?
Who said that?
What's that?
it's a deductible expense for a business where it's not deductible.
No, it is deductible, but you have to have income. to offset.
But I'm saying, you might as well knock 20 to 30% off the cost of the commercial to get a net cost because it's
Right.
deducted.
No, I get
Well, you
it.
do, isn't that-
Commissioner, I would say this,
Just showed that
you
what
look at
was
it,
it,
your
17,
commercial,
18,
but you have you haven't raised the rates on commercial forever.
Yeah. Well,
And you, right now, you're
just making it
50,
fair.
you're half of what your cost is, half of what other municipalities are paying
Right.
for commercial.
So we're just catching up and then just staying.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
that,
look at the green column. In 2017, when we went into this contract, we had markups of 44%.
Right.
And now they're down to 22%. And the 28% is down to 7%.
So I guess what I'm missing is what's an average toter? 5 yards? Is that
We always, when we
I mean,
calculate that, it's a 4-yard going twice a week,
okay, so
3.5 yard going twice a week.
So what's
Make
the-
it 3.5 yards.
what's if we apply that 33, what's the increase to the business that has a 5 yard,
It's a 4-yard.
4-yard
That's what I got,
dumping?
4-yard.
What's Daniel's cost gonna go up?
First year it'll go up
33%.
substantially, and then it'll go up only, whatever the contract is, 5%.
No, but there's some markup on it now, whether it's 7 or
Right.
14 or
Right.
whatever it
Like,
is.
one of them's 22%. Well, that'll go up to 33%, so it'll be a 13% increase.
11.
But I'm
You
looking
say
at the-
22
I'm
and
looking at the 20.
Oh,
No,
For the 4-yard, it's a 20.5.
But what's the dollars? Like, what's,
And it costs, the customer rate is 159.84. If we did the increase, it would go up to 176.42 on top of the proposed rates for WastePro.
So $17 the first year.
9.3, 9.4%.
The difference,
no, what's Daniel's bill gonna go up a month?
$20,
$17.
$17.
And then the next year
Daniel always
would
takes
be
it.
such a big percentage.
No, it'd be less than, I know it'd be less than next year. I'm just trying to.
and we're trying to make up, John, for not having those.
No, I get it, and it's just a business owner sitting there going, well, you've been getting a break, business owner, for the last 10 years. be thankful for that. Now we're gonna stick it to you. You
I
know?
don't think
Remember that conversation we had in my office earlier?
I don't think we're sticking it to them.
Not what you've done for me, what you've done for me
All
lately.
right, I'll keep my mouth shut.
All we're trying to do is balance things out a little bit more.
I'm just trying to.
No, I hear you. You're
If I
trying to
don't, if I
simplify.
don't understand the numbers, I can't.
Well, you know, it's
You're
funny
trying to
because
simplify.
in the real world, those price increases are gonna get passed to the consumers who are the residents, and in the end, they're all gonna pay for it anyway. Because the cost of doing business goes up, the prices go up, the residents pay more,
This
so
is true.
it's a trickle down. Otherwise, you won't see the second year because you won't be in business.
Well, that's the thing, the business is
You know,
gone.
it's a trickle down, they're gonna pay it, you know, it's just like when they raise the minimum wage, oh, okay,
Everything
tell me about that one.
Yeah, how's it? Order it on your iPad now.
My guys were at the front of the line, and I'm thinking, okay, how
All
many
right,
guys
so we
are
have
still here?
4 more minutes, so,
Big Mac.
so
11:29.
what is the direction you're looking for? So are you asking if you want to take this back to a commission meeting in the future?
I'm asking you I'm asking you 2 things. Do you agree with the rate increases that the city wants to place upon the residents in the commercial properties? Question 1. And question 2 is, do you want to move forward with a contract amendment with WastePro to bring us out another 10 years beyond the current?
Here's what I want is, I should have asked this prior to, I want an estimate of what this would save us hypothetically, both ways. Both ways, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if I have to make a decision, my decision is I want to keep the contract the way that it is, and in 3 years, bid it again through the normal process, and build up our reserves in the meantime on our end, from the city end, to then be able to cushion that for our residents and business owners.
Mayor, you have the option also, if I might add, at the end of the term of this contract, you have the right to extend the existing contract under additionally negotiated terms and conditions between the parties.
That's the mark.
So you can do it in 2
What's the
years.
difference between extending it and writing a new contract?
Sir?
What's the difference between extending this contract and doing a new contract?
What, we're not doing a new contract, we're doing an addendum to
Okay,
the existing
okay, okay.
contract.
But
There's,
if your addendum's big enough, it's a new contract.
Okay.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Well, the addendum's
So,
7 pages or 8
Commissioner Curry.
pages, and the contract's 40.
I am good with the city going ahead and charging more. I need more time to digest some of this. And I would also like to know,
I'm gonna be sure I'm gonna get you what you're asking.
Okay.
You wanna know if we put the markup on commercial and residential, what the excess funds would be at the end of a year.
Yep.
We'll do it based on a month, but we'll put it out for 12.
3 years. Are you talking right?
Yeah, until the end of the contract.
3 years.
But obviously, it's projection.
Multiply it out, this is
Yeah.
forecasting, so,
Right.
you know, we'll do it for a month, and then we'll multiply that by 36.
Right.
And then you wanna know what that would be minus the increase rates that we would get from WastePro.
If you do it
Because
every
there's
month,
built-in increase rates already, right? The CPI and all that? Tim, isn't that right? There's
Yeah,
certain
there
rates.
is.
I think
CPI, if you.
we're wanting to see
Do we
projected
know what they
out.
are? Or those-
If we went ahead and did the projection, what would we be saving to do that?
You keep saying saving,
You're not
that's
saving,
not the
you're
right
you're
word.
spending.
Yeah, I think what we could.
You're not spending as much, you're not saving,
We
because
could,
it's
we
going
could
up
sit there
anyways.
and
I
base
know
on
what's
assumptions,
going
take
up.
the current contract and run it out,
You have it.
and on the current contract, and then we can take what they're proposing, run that out for 10 years, and you're gonna
No,
have to make some
for 3
assumptions.
years.
Just for 3
The
years.
current year, but then you go out and you estimate what you think it's gonna be in 3 years.
That's what I'm
And
looking
put
for.
those two side
Run
by
that out
side.
and say in 10 years, compare the two, and obviously,
Well,
there's a lot of
you
projections.
can't do 10 years, you can only do 3 years.
No, but you can do 3 years under the current contract, and then say,
Projected
based
new
on
contract.
what we think that will be. Bill's got 36, 38%.
37, 38.
But you could plug in a number and say, based on that, starting in 3 years, what would happen over the next few years
Right.
with the rate increases? And there's a lot of assumptions in there, projections.
I mean, what are you gonna assume that the collection rate's gonna be on under a new contract?
36 to 38.
what we can do, Joe, we can run the numbers with Michelle on what your cost is gonna be over the next 3 years, including the CPIs and fuels, and that's gonna be a swag.
Right.
We can't say that this is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
This is what we think it's gonna be.
I'm interested in estimates. I know you can't nail
Well, that's what
it
Tim
down.
was just saying, right?
And if I could add, if you're gonna look at the next 3 years, the idea was kind of like 3 years, a discounted rate for a 6-year period.
Correct.
Okay, because we would be under market value year. The trade-off is, get me a little closer year 3, 2, and 1, and then I'll give you a break year 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
That's
Right.
stretching it, so.
See, that's what I'm saying, so if we do it the way you're asking, WastePro's current rate for 3 years, then an assumption that in the start of year 4, we'd be at $38,
Right, and then run that out for another 7.
and then run that out for 10,
Because we're at 13 on this one, we're
Okay,
14.
Yeah.
to the same time frame.
right? 10 more years that way.
It's probably gonna be 6 and one half of the other.
It probably is, it's gonna be pretty close.
But I think that will help.
I think that's the thing, I think we need to see pay me now or pay me later. At the end of the
So-
day, it's the same amount of money,
All right, so
either.
I can do that, I can do it. Somebody else that works.
We can do it, you and the mouse in your pocket, right?
We can get that for you, but it's still, my question still is, should we bring forward the rate increases now?
Yes,
We don't have a choice.
yes.
I thought we all-
Don't we usually do that in November,
October.
October?
Typically, we do it in October.
So it would be a mid-year
Well,
change?
we've only done a rate increase
Right,
once,
Right.
so I can't say what we typically do, but we've done it once, and we happened to do it twice. We did it in like
Yeah,
April and
right.
October.
Back to back, yeah.
So my question is, do you want to start that rate increase effective April, effective June, effective October? Because if you wait till October, you lost a year.
I would like to see it when it comes back up. I mean, we set the rate already as is, and with our budget balanced as is. I'm looking towards the future of what that is, what the budget will be.
But
So,
we're getting less than $1 on the commercial
Might
total.
roll
We
backwards.
cannot continue to do that.
that's what we decided to do though, based on,
But we talked about during budget time, we talked about coming back and addressing the
Right.
solid waste rates. It's not new now. We talked about it then, that we have a problem with
so
solid waste.
my answer is no, Joe, if you're asking me right.
Yeah, and I'm asking your answers.
My answer is no, commission maybe yes, but that's the way I feel about it. I know that solid waste fund is healthy right now. We've been able to do a lot of projects out of it. We specifically said we need to run that solid waste fund down, and that's why we did these projects, and that's why we haven't increased that rate, so that's where I'm at.
Well, what I hear is everyone's in favor of establishing the rate increase. It's a question of when will it be effective.
Correct.
And that can be handled when we vote on it. I think you need to bring it back.
Well, no, I think you should tell me if you want me to make it effective now, you want me to make it effective October. I mean, you can vote on it now for an October implementation.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But I think,
I think I would prefer in October.
I mean, just give me, if
So I
that's what
think
you
right
wanna
now,
do,
that's where I
Then
stand.
just,
We got 2 for October.
I can bring it back in
I would-
next month.
Right, it doesn't matter
For a
when we
later
vote
date.
on it, yeah,
I would ask
I want to see the money.
the one that
yeah.
in charge of the numbers,
too.
if it's prudent to wait till October or if it needs to get done.
We have reserves that we're still balancing out with still. Do we dip into the reserves each month? No. So we can do it. We can wait till October to do it. There's no concern about waiting till October.
Well, if we can wait, then we can wait.
All right, we got 3 we can wait. If you look into something, you see the numbers are great. John wants to know the numbers, you can talk with John. If you have a sense that you should bring it back before, you
Well,
can bring
here's
it back.
the only problem with that scenario is if we bring it back and we wait till October to implement, and then you decide to move forward with WastePro's increase, then we have to back it up.
Okay,
So that's the only challenge to that.
so then wait,
So where I'm-
so we decide
I'm in
if
the
we're
wait
moving
mode.
forward this.
Did you say 60,000 or 80,000 inclusive of residential and commercial a month?
60 commercial,
20.
80
For
including residential.
8 times 8 is $640,000.
Over the next 8 months.
All right,
And
Chump change for six.
there's a notice requirement for rate increases, just so you all know.
oh, is there?
So we're in a stand
How long
down
is that?
mode right now.
I think I will check it, but it's like with the utility rates, But have to put it on the bill.
Okay.
60 days or something?
I'll check it.
Just before the meeting.
So right now we're doing.
Public notice before this.
I know they're.
We're waiting to see if,
prior.
because we're gonna get these numbers back. And commission, listen, am I right by saying, is this the consensus? We want staff to bring back the projections of both ways for us so we can decide if we want to do this renegotiation with the contract now or wait until it's up. And then for the rates, we are waiting until October. Unless we decide to move forward with this, then we'd have to bring the rates back immediately.
Okay.
All right, with that, is there anything further? All right, this meeting is adjourned.
We have a couple of minutes
Yeah,
just to go by the rest.
yep.
That was your
We're
wife?
behind.